During the lockdown, I mean, everybody found it really hard missing out on the things that they normally take for granted, like being able to leave the house whenever they wanted, being told that you can only go for one walk a day. That was not something that people were used to, being dictated to what they could do with their lives, or not being able to go and get a haircut, or not being able to see their friends, or get hold of all the food that they wanted, or go on holidays. So with Campaign for Change, we've decided to do the hashtag Always in Lockdown campaign, because it occurred to us that now a lot of people have had a taste of what it's like to be in lockdown. Maybe I should know that for a lot of people with a learning disability or with autism, that actually it can be like living in a lockdown anyway, long before anybody else had heard of lockdowns. Yeah, for some example, even before the lockdown, one very good friend of mine, he requires a hoist when he goes to the toilet, and normally we like to spend time together, and usually if we go out somewhere locally, then we can only enjoy the day together until lunchtime, and then he has to go home so that he can go to the toilet, because most of the disabled toilets don't actually have a hoist or anything. And we went on a longer trip together one day with his family. It was great, but he had to just wear extra pads and just stay in them for the day. Like, he chose that he wants to stay out because we were doing something really special. But I mean, I think while we were there, I went to the toilet quite a lot of times. You know, we were buying, there was special drinks and everything to buy, and we were doing a lot of things. And, you know, like, I can't imagine having to be him and had to skip all of those toilet breaks during the day and be uncomfortable. So, yeah, for a lot of people now, having to live like lockdown and actually, yeah, shorten their days out. For people like me, well, I can't go out without having one-to-one support. And so if you do not have enough hours funded or have enough staff on shift, then you can't just choose to go out for a walk or to get whatever work or activities that you want. And so I think, look, people that are not in this situation normally, realise that during the lockdown, how frustrating it was for them being told you can leave the house once a day for exercise, Boris Johnson said. And yeah, like, for some of us, we cannot even get out for a walk once a day if there's a staff shortage. If you require support from services, then when you want to do an activity or just go somewhere or get a new job or do nearly anything in life, even at home, if you want to try doing something new, then the staff need to do a risk assessment to check out what things could happen and how to make it safe. And I think, although it sounds a bit weird to have on risk assessments, I don't think nobody can get rid of them, because there are rules to have it, and they actually come in very handy about making us think if we are involved in making them as well. Helps us think about how to make everything safe for us. But a lot of people who need support have a problem that say they say, oh, I'm going to join a new club, or I know that after lockdown, I got told I can go back to a charity shop and do my volunteering again because they'd made it COVID safe. But you have to wait until the risk assessment's been written before you're allowed to go. And so sometimes just because there might not be enough staff on and they're quite rightfully focusing their time on actually making sure that we're safe at home and supporting us, they haven't got the time to sit down and type the risk assessment. So you might be excited to be going to somewhere, but maybe you have to wait, another month before you can even start, because each week you miss it because the risk assessment isn't written yet. Also, I think for some people, risk assessments, if people are not using them well, can be used as a way just to stop anything new from happening. That if somebody says, I would really like to take up climbing, that you could instantly write down on that is a risky sport. You could fall, you could hurt your head, anything could happen. People die through climbing accidents, so definite no. Whereas like is to get everybody with all the staff are trained to know that a risk assessment is to actually make things happen. You look and you say, well, that could be dangerous for this and this, but actually what can we do to make it safe? And say, oh, well, so-and-so will wear a helmet and we'll make sure that they've practiced wearing a helmet and they know that they have to keep it on. And if they don't want to wear it, they will not be allowed up the wall. You're going to go to a place that's got trained instructors, etc., etc. And then really anything that we want to do, if you put the right things in place to minimize the risk, you should actually be able to do it. So risk assessments, although we're in a way complain on our campaign about them, it's not really that we hate risk assessments, just that we hate it if they're not done actually to benefit us. During the COVID lockdowns, some places as well, they were implementing that people cannot be out in the pubs until too late, even when the times in the lockdown when the pubs were open during those phases, things were shutting early. And again, although that's kind of not the biggest deal in life, because we should be happy that we weren't in the main lockdown, people were still annoyed that they could not be out till really late and were still being dictated to when and where they should have fun and how they can do that. And yet, again, for people that are living, in a supported living or a care home or in their own flat, but relying on somebody to support them to go out, quite often this will be, at least the night staff will be starting, say, at 10 o'clock. And so if you want to be out at a pub, you're probably going to have to leave by 9 o'clock, and because the staff will need to get back, fill out paperwork, and be able to go home from their shift is finished. And so for a lot of people, they can never have the opportunity to stay out late, or if you've got a Christmas meal you get invited to from your work and they're staying late, again, you're going to have to be the person that leaves early because of needing that support. And also, just for people seeing friends in general, man, for a lot of people, they take for granted that they can just contact their friends, and if it's convenient with you and your best friend to meet up, you can do it. Whereas quite often, again, for people needing support, it could be okay if you have a friend that doesn't require support and is your friend but is also able to support you. Then that can be easier because you can go out with them and they can help you and you can both have your friendship more easily. But if one of your friends also requires support and maybe they live in a different home to you suddenly, when you try to imagine trying to meet up with your friend, but you also need to make sure that you have staffing in place on that day and then they can be with you, and your friend needs to have the staffing in place on that day, and it can make things a whole lot more complicated to be able to arrange to meet up with people because you're dealing with two different companies that deal with the care, two different people's hours and transport. And so it can often be, quite often people can make a good friend when they're their housemate or when you're at the same day centre as each other, and then you say you want to still be friends, but actually when one of you has moved to another service, you find the friendship falls away, and not because you've grown apart, but because there isn't that help in place so that you can actually go to see them. I'll be a day centre before, and one of our good friends left, and I remember her very closest friend was crying a lot, like every day for weeks, saying she missed her whenever we were at centre. And the staff actually said, well, she's gone to a better place, which to me sounded like the thing people say when someone's died. I mean, they meant she's gone to her new supported living, and there's nice there, and she has a new day centre. And they reassured our friends, don't worry, you have your friends here, and she has gone and made new friends. But, for a lot of people, if they didn't need the support, they would actually be able to keep their friendship, and they could have, she hadn't gone far, she'd gone about 20 minutes away. They could have met up for lunch, and so I think these are the things that are quite hard if you're reliant on other people. So for a lot of people, the lockdown is even worse all the time, because if you can't use the technology for yourself, when you say, I would like to video call my family or friends or send them some photos of me, if you need help to be able to access that, then if you don't have someone to help you with it, then there's even more even more disconnect from everybody. During the week of the 15th to 19th of November, we'll be promoting the campaign #AlwaysInLockdown on social media. During this week, if you would like to share your own experiences of barriers and restrictions that you have in your own life, you can do so and tag #AlwaysInLockdown. So think about if you have a disability or any sort of support needs for whatever reason, and you find that you don't get to live a full life outside of, we know about the COVID lockdown and how, in actual fact, for people with a learning disability or autism or mental health problems, in fact, a lot were affected even more severely by the COVID lockdowns, and we have had a lot of strict measures, and maybe still you might still not be doing activities you used to do due to COVID rules. But think about even before COVID came along, and if there are things that you wish that you were able to do, you see other people doing, like being able to go out for a walk whenever you want, and you've seen other people being able to choose, or say you wanted to go on holiday, and we know not everybody could afford to have whatever we want all the time, but say you want to go to one caravan park and everybody else wants to go to a different one, and you don't get to ever choose for yourself because everything has to be done as a group, or it would not be good for one person's needs, and you're not allowed to split up at all because that's how the system is working. So if you can think of anything like the examples that I gave, like if you had wanted to go out and watch a concert, see your favourite band play, and you found that you did not have enough support hours, you only have 2 hours a day of someone coming in, or your staff could only take you to a matinee performance and the thing that you want to see doesn't happen at lunchtime, then share any experiences you have, because we want to campaign to try and make a difference. So again, if you go onto social media, like onto Facebook, and you can put the hashtag always in lockdown, and you could write your experiences, put a photo, or maybe if you've drawn a picture about it, or write a poem, or if you find it easier to make a video, you could do it yourself or with your friends, or ask someone in your family or someone who supports you to help you do it. And even if you need someone to help you, then it's a good thing because you'll be educating them about the campaign by asking them to help. So everything you do is going to be really positive. So thank you in advance if you get involved in the campaign, and hopefully we can help everybody.